Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. I'm really excited to dive into this one. So, putting on my researcher hat, since I spend a good chunk of my time digging into the minds of Silicon Valley's top thinkers, we're going to peel back the layers of the tech world today. We're not just looking at shiny new apps or stock prices. Instead, we're uncovering the hidden philosophical gears that are actually driving this massive AI boom. Okay, let's get into it.
You look at the absolute frenzy right now between these tech giants. Companies literally throwing billions of dollars at data centers and aggressively poaching talent, and you've got to ask yourself, why? Why are they moving at such a breakneck speed, risking so much along the way? Is it really just about the money, or is there a much deeper ideology at play here?
To figure that out, here's our quick agenda for today. We'll start with Silicon Valley's core ideology, define techno-libertarianism and the extreme philosophy of accelerationism. Then, we'll look at the whole EAC movement, check out how these ideas are violently colliding with physical limits, and finally, wrap up with something called future literacy.
All right, moving right into part one, Silicon Valley's ideology.
Looking at this framework literally changes how you read the news. Think about the crazy drama we saw in late 2023 with the firing and sudden rehiring of OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman. That wasn't just a typical boardroom squabble. When you look closely, these are explosive battles in what is basically a deep, almost religious war over the future of human technology. It's literally a clash of worldviews playing out in real time.
Which brings us to part two, techno-libertarianism.
To understand these thinkers, you have to grasp this concept. Techno-libertarianism is this deeply held belief that outdated social systems, slow government bureaucracies, and regulations aren't just annoying, they are literal bugs in the human operating system. Believers argue that unregulated technological capitalism, powered by elegant computer code, is the absolute best way to solve complex human problems. I mean, why wait years for a politician to pass a law when you can just write a piece of software to bypass the issue entirely, right?
Okay, part three, the radical philosophy of accelerationism.
So what happens when you mix that libertarian vibe with academic philosophy? You get accelerationism. And this isn't just a Silicon Valley buzzword for moving fast. It's a deep philosophical drive. The core idea is that instead of hitting the brakes on a flawed, unequal capitalist system to try and fix it, we actually need to speed it up. You push capitalism and tech growth to their absolute, extreme limits until the system basically breaks and transforms reality. You don't repair the machine, you overload it until it evolves. Now there are a couple of flavors here. Left-wing accelerationism hopes that automating everything will eventually lead to a post-capitalist utopia with universal basic income. But, and wearing my researcher hat here, this is the crucial part, the profound correlation between right-wing accelerationism and Silicon Valley is undeniable. The right-wing branch actually wants a hyper-capitalist technological singularity, a future where AI completely surpasses human intelligence and permanently alters civilization. Think about how perfectly that bonds with the techno-libertarian ethos. If you already think government regulation is a bug, merging that with an ideology that demands infinite, unregulated speed is just a match made in heaven.
All right, let's jump to part four, E/AC, or effective accelerationism.
This right here is the modern, memified version of everything we just talked about. It's basically the engine versus the brake. On one side, you have effective accelerationism, E/AC, demanding unbridled technological progress at literally all costs. And on the flip side, you've got effective altruism, or EA, which is screaming for extreme caution, AI safety, and strict ethical regulation. That exact dynamic is what fueled the OpenAI drama we talked about. It completely split tech executives into two camps, those desperate to build the future tomorrow and those terrified of what that future might actually do to us.
And while the EAC faction essentially won that war, that victory locked Silicon Valley into this intense new mindset where hitting the brakes or slowing down AI development is genuinely viewed as a moral failure. To them, it's a denial of human potential. So caution is entirely in the rearview mirror now, and the industry is locked into a full-throttle sprint toward AGI, or artificial general intelligence.
But here is where reality hits hard. Part 5, ideological clash versus physical limits.
You see, you can hold all the accelerationist philosophy in the world, but eventually, this runaway train is going to slam into a brick wall of real-world physics. First off, power. AI requires the electricity output of middle-tier nations. Just generating one single AI image can use as much energy as fully charging your smartphone. It's so intense that tech giants are actively investing in nuclear power just to keep up. Second, the data. We're facing a fast-approaching drought of high-quality human training data, which experts predict could run out between 2026 and 2028. And third, there's a brutal physical hardware war happening right now.
Speaking of hardware, NVIDIA chips are basically the incredibly expensive oil of the AI learning or training process, giving them a massive monopoly. But you've got giants like Amazon and Google desperately fighting back. They're trying to design their own highly efficient custom chips for inference, which are the everyday tasks, like when you actually ask the AI a question. So underneath all the abstract philosophy, there's this massive chess game over physical, heavy infrastructure.
So, what does this mean for us? Part 6, Future Literacy.
Instead of just sitting back and getting swept along by the whims of tech elites, we need to develop what scholars call future literacy. It's essentially the ability to objectively map out these ideological ecosystems we've been talking about. By using tools like science fiction prototyping, where we actively imagine multiple, diverse future scenarios, we can actually understand where this is all heading. Recognizing these hidden forces allows us to reclaim our agency, We can proactively design our own societal narratives instead of having them dictated to us by algorithms and a handful of billionaires.
Because ultimately, the future isn't some predetermined path forged entirely by Silicon Valley's accelerationists. I love this quote. The future begins from the blank space of a label. We're absolutely not locked into a single destiny here. The choices we make as a society today about regulation, adoption, and ethical boundaries are going to be what writes the words on that blank label.
Which brings us to the biggest takeaway of this explainer. Now that you've seen the hidden philosophies currently accelerating our world, what steps are you going to take today to make sure you aren't just a passenger on this runaway train? How will you use your future literacy to navigate the coming singularity? Honestly, keep that in the back of your mind as you watch the news this week. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep asking those big questions.